Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Thousand says she can hear.
Cool, okay.
Yep, they can hear us.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. All right, by my clock.
I should probably come down where you are.
Yeah, well, you're all right. It's 2 p.m. Eastern, which makes it 11 o'clock North American server. So welcome to the DTC Roadshow. This is DTC Roadshow number, we're up to 32 now. Wow. And this week's guest is Jaedor at Greybriar. Now, we were on Greybriar last week talking to a member of her guild, Shower, and today the shoe's on the other foot for Jaedor. She's going to be in the hot seat taking us around some of her dimensions. In news...
I'm crackling already.
Yeah. As far as news goes, there's not too much. The Temple of the Abandoned Bug is still there. In case you don't know what that is, the building is gone. There's a lot of upset Dimensioneers with that one, and I really don't blame them. Vengeful Sky is just as buggy as ever. Except now I think it might be even more so, so hopefully that one will be on another fix too. There's no ETA yet on these fixes. Contests, oh boy, there are contests and contests and contests. There's a contest for everybody. Cowrie's collaboration contest with the post-apocalyptic theme. Wow. I think I need more coffee, Jade. That one closes for entries on the 21st of August. Looking forward to seeing some pretty good entries with that one. And then Nuve at Dimension Gallery is running the Dungeon Master contest, which closes the 29th of August. So those will have their own road shows dedicated to touring those entries. And then Renraff at Deepwood has a contest for Back to Where We Started. Now, she's amended the rules a little bit to where you can only use Sanguine Shores or Warren's Point, which kind of threw a check in my plans, but you know, we'll make do. And the idea is that you can only use the items that come in the original Dimension stash that you get at like level 8. And yep, I'm always running Valzen. And the things that are only sold in Meridian. Now, along with that, we can also use Mythosian fished items and the original crafted items, not dreamweaving items. Woo! And entries for that one, I think,
Sounds fun.
yeah, that one does sound fun. Now it closes September 15th, if I remember correctly. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started because we've got a lot of good dimensions to check out today. Now this is an older one, and it's Hero's Quest, The Hidden Canyon. So what is the Hero's Quest?
Well, you know, it's kind of an allegorical thing, but Hero's Quest, the quintessential hero, you know, is kind of an archetypal story that has been around for thousands of years and pretty much since recorded history. In the case of this particular dimension and this build, this was built right after 2.3 when the game went free to play, and we got a whole bunch of new items with that change, including these Ashoran Mountains. And I was in a bit of a funk at the time, kind of bummed, I guess, at the way that the game was going to change and dimensions were going to change for those of us who had always been on a level playing field. And so I was fiddling around with these Ashoran Mountains, and I had no idea how big they got. I never got one of them when I was playing around on the PTS, so they were kind of a surprise. And after I plunked down a couple of them, I realized, good Lord, they've given us tools for terraforming. I mean, you know, it's not a voxel game, so we can't destroy the environment, but in terms of actually doing transformation, it was suddenly possible. And once I placed a bunch of those Ashoran mountains up, and I created, you know, just by plunking them down, it created this kind of canyon, and it really changed the look of Fanes, and this whole idea just kind of sprung from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
I created a little backstory for this dimension. So there's this invisible caretaker who has protected this place, hidden away from society and civilization for an unknown amount of time. And you, the wannabe hero, has stumbled across and into this canyon. And so as you enter in, as you zone in, you'll find that it's an oasis. It's kind of barren, but there are signs of life. You know, there's some fire, some torches. There's also some skulls hanging around, suggesting that people who had been here before you had maybe a tough time.
Yep, I saw one of those on the way up. There was some feet dangling out.
Yep. And if you make your way to the top, then, or at least towards the top, you'll find yourself at a house, a retreat space where you can get food and shelter and rest and water and, you know, those important things for staying alive. There's shrines, little shrines, simple things around. If you go up to the second floor, then you can see that there's a little armory where you can replenish your supplies, repair your gear, replace it. And at the very top of the house, there's a meditation platform. And at that point, you might get your first glimpse of something else in the dimension, which is a temple floating in the sky.
Yep.
And from the house, there's really no truly apparent way to get there. So, I mean, if you notice it, maybe you might notice this little bridge off to the left side, but otherwise, it's kind of like, well, there's something else to see, but I don't know how to get there, which, for the explorers, which is how this was built, that means going downstairs and checking out how to get there.
Yes, and you are adamant about being an explorer, and so that's what you build for.
I do. And I get it that it's not everybody else's play style, but I really love to explore, and I like nooks and crannies. So when I built this, it was with the explorer in mind, so that anybody who goes looking for nooks and crannies is going to find something. So there's little Easter egg type things all over the place. You know, around the back of the house, there's some graves, little shrines on the grave. In the corners, you'll find skulls, you'll find treasure. I tried to make it kind of interesting to actually explore, like you might find something.
Yeah.
And
I came up the back way and used the bridge. I know
well, there's a couple of different ways to go.
Yeah, the first time I walked these bridges, I was like, oh my god. I'm gonna fall.
Yes, I won't repeat the actual words you used, but it was hilarious. I'm glad I wasn't drinking at the moment. I would have snorted it.
Yeah,
but it's meant to be... That's right. But I mean, there's definitely... I wanted to have this sense of, you know, the quintessential hero has come from a good place. Suddenly things go weird or wrong or confusing or dark. There's an arduous task that has to happen. He completes the task and is rewarded. That's pretty much how that allegory theme works in the storytelling. So these bridges can be a bit of a challenge. And they kind of force you to slow down if you're going to take a bridge.
Yeah, you don't want to mount up on there.
You can, but, you know, unless you're really, really good, you might not make the corner.
Yeah.
But if you slow down and you continue to take the paths up, and they're not exactly obvious, but there's certainly a way to do it. I've walked the whole thing several times. And then there are several bridges that will take you up to the very top of the dimension. Ways to get there. You'll find camping sites, more evidence of other adventurers who perhaps were not as successful as you. And you can actually take all of the bridges across the top and go all the way around. But there's one bridge, when you find it, that will take you to the temple. And even that requires a leap, a little bit of a leap at the end. So the reward when you get to the temple is vibrant life, there's water, there's treasure, implied blessings. So, you know, you win. I win the game.
I think you won this time.
Once I had the Ashoran Mountains really got me out of my funk, and this whole thing came together in maybe a week, maybe 3 days. Once it cut through the fog, it really came together quickly.
I missed a jump. Crap.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure that everybody in the audience knows that I am not, yep, Sailor has it right, I am not a very successful adventurer. Those might be my bones sticking out of the rocks.
Well, it's just really, I mean, there's kind of layers. If people go explore under the water, for example, under the waterfall, they'll find another little Easter egg type thing down there. But there, you'll find stuff tucked into most of the nooks and crannies somewhere. There's even a hidden canyon within the hidden canyon that has something. And I ended up there by accident because I fell in. Yep, there it is. It's still there. Yay! I remembered how to get there. Funny, it's been a long time since I built this. It's almost 2 years old.
Yeah.
I don't think I've changed anything except what I originally had in here was a terrace pond tilted sideways to kind of look like a waterfall from distance, and once we got the dream weaving items I replaced that with an actual waterfall. And I added a few of the green moats, and that's it. I know I'm kind of in the minority at least, but when I do a build, it's kind of a snapshot of that moment, and I really don't go back and tweak. I just build something else.
Yep, I have never been known for my exploration skills, and this is why. So I'm pretty bad at it. But I'll tell you, if you're hole checking, one of the explorers is what you want to check your places for holes.
Yep,
know,
we're good at that.
Yeah, I know you've come into mine and found holes that it was like, what? How the hell did you find that? All right, damn it. I think I can make that. I think I'm gonna cheat.
saw that.
I told you I was going to cheat. Otherwise, we'd be in here all day trying to get me to find this bridge.
Too fun.
Now I'm going to relax at the pool for a minute. I like that this is not a standard jump puzzle per se. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, jumping required to get into over the terrain and stuff, but it's not like a more formally designed jump puzzle.
Yeah, it's basically the path is tricky. It's supposed to be tricky. It's supposed to be a little bit fear-inducing, and from your first reaction, I accomplished that goal.
Yep. Well, even now,
I mean,
on the
at least
bridge.
Yeah. I mean, if it produces a little bit of a gulp, great. It's supposed to have a little bit of an Indiana Jones quality to it.
Yep. And here we found another guy that wasn't so lucky.
Well, and there is a little bit, I can't remember what it's called, but there's a word in storytelling for the moral story, the moral, I don't remember what the heck it's called. But anyway, a morality play kind of thing. So what you'll find generally is for the treasure hunters, the skulls are shown with treasure. So they got their treasure, but it killed them.
Uh-oh. Well, I adventured good enough to get to the loading screen.
Yep, and I don't know why, but at the top of Fanes, right here, that's where the loading screen is. Do it once, and apparently then you don't have to do it again, but it is a full, I don't know, 30, 60 seconds?
Yeah, this one didn't last too long. But yeah, I'm with you on loving these ashore and mountainsides.
Oh, man.
They really,
And I love the desert.
yeah.
I don't want them to be something else. It's like if I was going to do Fanes, then I want it to be sandy, and all I had up until that point was those rock towers coming out of Ashura.
Yeah, the ones that would take about 300 million to cover all this.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm a less is more kind of builder, so, you know, I'm kind of sparing with the stuff I use.
And you've just recently added a part 2, which is where we're headed to next. But I just wanted to really revisit part 1 because I always liked this dimension. Even though I'm not the exploring type and I'm not, you know, real adventurous, I always have liked and enjoyed touring this dimension.
Oh, I'm glad. That makes my day.
But now we're going to head off into part 2, which is Hero's Quest Sleeping Beauty.
Okay.
And this one has a totally different
Okay.
feel from part 1.
Yep. The other thing that's weird that I noticed the other day is that I put it open to the public almost exactly to the day, 2 years later, that I did the first one. That was kind of do-do-do-do.
So is the next one going to be Twilight Zone?
Ay, ay, ay. I don't know.
But maybe not 2 years from now.
Yeah, maybe not 2 years.
Now, you know, with this one, when I first came in here, after it was just opened up, I was expecting it to be kind of like the last one, so I went looking for holes to where I could get through the wall here, and then I just realized that if I'd gone just a little bit further, I could have just gone in through the opening.
Yeah, I think the holes in this one are designed to show you kind of that there's something more. But unless you've got a Jeets, I don't know that you can actually get over
Yep, you can.
the fence. Okay, so yep,
I think
you
I
found
hopped on the
spots.
mushroom.
Okay.
See, you're training me to explore. Between you and Diva, you will eventually train me to explore. But this tower is something else.
This one came about just under completely different circumstances. Again, though, inspired by new item. In this case, it was the sleeping Dromheim resident, you know, when they first rolled out NPCs.
Yep.
And I was thinking, I'd been kind of thinking that it might be cool to actually make Hero's Quest a chain, because that would produce content for, like, forever. But then, when I saw the sleeping Dromheim resident, and I went and saw one, I guess on the PTS, I looked at it and it was like, oh, that'll work great. So I just waited. I built everything but Sleeping Beauty, and I just waited for those to come out. And what I didn't know was that every time you visit the dimension, it's a different NPC in the bed. What I thought it was always the same one, which is the one that I saw, which was the female with the long pointed princess hat.
Yeah, and it wasn't.
So, once I found out that it might be some other guy who looked like he smokes 5 cigars a day, that kind of went out the window. And I had to actually learn how to morph a figure, which I'd never done before.
Yeah, that's its own special challenge. Well, Valzen is not a very good explorer either, because she couldn't figure out how to get into the building.
Well, that's my bad. I know that the door is, the busted open door is wide enough for the largest bommy that they make. It's not large enough to go through mounted, but...
Yep. Yeah, if you run around it, Valzen, you'll find this door here, and this is the way in.
And the pathway pretty much brings you out to just outside this back door. If you remember the story of Sleeping Beauty, and it's really interesting to read the history of that particular story. There's several versions of them. Some are quite dark, and I'm kind of going with a Disney version. But basically, the princess is finally born to a king and queen who've been longing for children for ages, and the fairies are invited to her birthday, either christening or first birthday or something like that. And another dark fairy shows up who is PO'd because she wasn't invited. And so after the first 2 fairies have given their gifts of grace and beauty, the dark fairy shows up and curses her to prick her finger on a spindle and die. And the third good fairy then comes along and tries to mitigate the damage of that curse by saying that she'll fall into a 100-year sleep, and the curse will be broken when she is kissed from a space of true love.
Yep, the spinning wheel is definitely getting some comments. And the spinning wheel has to be... I mean, this is a kick-ass morph. How long did this thing take to put together?
The spinning wheel?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, an hour.
Oh, she says that all nonchalantly. About an hour.
Well, I Googled a spinning wheel. I mean, I Googled images of spinning wheel. And I could see, you know, hundreds of them what they all had in common was the wheel. The two thingies that connect the wheel to the table should be slanted. So, from there, it was a matter of what color did I want, and what was I going to use, and pretty much the first try, it worked. So, an hour. Sorry.
No, it's fine. We're up at the top now.
Hopefully the portal thing's pretty obvious up there.
Yeah, I found it okay.
And what I wanted for the top of the tower for Sleeping Beauty was a bower. She's been asleep for 100 years. And you are the hero that's going to try to awaken her. So this needed to be overgrown. You know, it needed to be also protected, like nature protecting her. It needed to be enchanted, because it was an enchantment that keeps her asleep.
Yeah.
Just kind of simple.
Well, I do like the Maleficent version of Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
But as far as this figure morph goes, wow. I tell you, I spent a lot of time looking at her shoes. She has high heels. How come we don't have high heels?
High heels would be nice.
And she does look exactly like she's sleeping.
Well, thank you.
And these Kalari vases make an awesome dress.
Yeah, I mean, in the story, her nickname is, I mean, I think her real name is supposed to be like the Princess Aurora, but she was raised in the forest by fairies who were kind of trying to protect her from having the curse happen, and it happened anyway, but she's been raised in kind of a peasant thing. She doesn't really know she's a princess, so the costume is kind of, you know, it's got a wide skirt and then a little vest that kind of went with it. And she's 16 years old, so it's not anything like, you know, a fancy princess dress. It's intended to be something lower key.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun and a lot of cussing to put her together. Everything else was cake in comparison. And I can see why I mostly do landscapes and cityscapes and townscapes and other scapes, and avoid doing people morphs, because you all that do them, kudos to you.
Well, now I think you can count yourself among them now.
Well, I think this might have been a one-shot wonder.
And Fairying Woods was such a good choice for this kind of build.
Thanks. I did go through all of them, kind of looking at what could work, what kind of naturally lent itself to this kind of a story. And this was by far the better choice. It was fun playing with skies. Which kind of skies did I want? And because I kind of wanted the foggy effect coming off the ponds, I ended up staying with the life sky, but the River of Souls sky was very tempting.
Oh, isn't it always though?
Yeah. I do have the fairies kind of present, but they're very low key. It's just kind of subtle. I've got the bad fairy Maleficent on the smaller pond, and I've got one of the, a more positive elemental, benign elemental on the bigger pond, and some fairy hangings. A few, not a lot. I mean, this was supposed to be the place where she was protected from the curse, and whoops.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things with the Sleeping Beauty was that once she went into the sleep, the wall of thorns was supposed to spring up or something like that.
Yeah, and the way, depending on the story, there was a wall of thorns, and also there was time. Over time, it would grow to become pretty much impenetrable. So the whole idea of the longish, close pressed-in path to get here to the tower itself, you know, I wanted to produce that feeling of closed in, tough to get through, but you don't actually, you know, in our sense, you don't have to actually fight your way through it. He's got pickers, though.
Yes, it does.
Ooh, I bet I know where you got through. Right here. Yep.
I'm not
Found the hole. Aha!
I didn't cheat though. No mounting.
Nope. Nope. And actually, the original path was very short, and it just wasn't. It wasn't foreboding enough, long enough. So I took it all out and started over. Made a much longer path.
This got even some great structural details around the doors. Like the chains.
Thanks. I mean, it was supposed to, the way that the story read, they were actually locking things up and putting the entire, in one story, the fairies put the entire kingdom to sleep for like 100 years. Because they said she's a 16-year-old girl, and when she wakes up, she'll be freaked out, so we need to put everybody to sleep so that she still has her parents and somebody who can explain what's going on, and life just kind of will resume as whatever normal was at the time. And so.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun to go back and revisit the story. It was also very interesting to see how many versions there are.
Oh yeah. You use these smaller dimensions a lot too.
I actually I like using smaller dimensions. I think they kind of produce a tight boundary that can spark greater creativity. You know, you've got an inbuilt challenge to use fewer items. Therefore, how are you going to get your message across?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't agree with me on that.
No, I use the small ones sometimes. I like doing my occasional doodles. Take a Tower Meadow or a Sing One Shores or one of the 400 item limit dimensions and just see what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
I know not that long ago I built my first Warden's Point. It only took 2.5 years to build.
I like that dimension. I think Warden's Point was my very first commission.
Yep, that was going to be the other thing, because I know you do a lot of commissions too.
Yeah. Got 3 completed, 1 unfinished still. I mean, it's like 90% finished. Now that we have the free camera, I feel like I can finish that. And 1 waiting in the wings. If I counted right.
Yep.
I might have another one that moved off to another shard that I can't find.
Hate it when that happens.
Yeah. Okay, where are we going next, boss?
Next, we're going to Court of Shadows. Well, my frame rate for this definitely loves these smaller dimensions. It's like the first time in a long time I've been able to have the chat window open so I can see what's going on in Twitch. So what's the story behind this one?
This one is, and I have no idea what made me think of it. It just crossed my mind one day. And it, like most of my concepts, they're full-blown. So it's just a matter of now, can I actually do it? This one is that there's a, depicting the meaning of troll. So we have internet trolls, we have forum trolls, we have all kinds of trolls. And in the story of fairy tales, trolls live under the bridge, right? So in this case, and in this particular dimension, there's a troll that lives under the bridge, masquerading as a human being, or a Talaran, let's say. And he is nasty. Sociopath, maybe a psychopath. He's just a nasty guy. And this part of town is run down, and he's taking advantage of the people that live here. He keeps it kind of seedy and run down, and he holds court underneath the bridge. So when you zone in to Court of Shadows, what you pretty much see is this seedy, gritty part of town. You know, come in, there's a pawn shop, there's an ATM, there's guys in the corner sleeping it off, there's guys in the corner playing cards. I mean, you're likely to find people bums sleeping it off all over the place, because I have about 10 of them in here.
Yep.
And there's this, you know, the little bit of local politics has this kind of tower here. And even if you go in there, there's a guy sleeping it off in the closet.
Yep, we already
You can
found
go
it.
around the... you can go upstairs and see where, you know, the local government person has his office. Or her office. And there's the old widow's tailor shop. Has seen better days. She's down to 2 rooms. Trying to eke out a living with her tailoring stuff. I kind of wanted to make this space look like kind of old money that's gone. Once upon a time had nice things. Once upon a time had really nice home. This is what it's down to.
Yeah, I think you managed to convey that pretty well.
There's a funeral parlor here. There's the betting parlor. There's the apothecary, drug dealer masquerading as apothecary.
Hey.
There's the entertainment tent. That's all just on the main level.
Is this the bookie?
Yep.
I agree, Sailor.
Aw, thanks. They all do kind of have, all but one, have some kind of little backstory that produced the image, the concept, so that I can flesh it out and build it. So the apothecary has something cooking on his stove and some little pills out there for the taking. And the entertainment tent has hookahs all ready to rumble and some nice plush pillows for chilling.
The pillows are for after you've rumbled.
Yeah, maybe. And this is about the point where you might realize there's something happening down below. There's a couple of other hints, but they're not particularly obvious. And I had to make a more obvious hint with putting an arrow down. That was really kind of hard for me to do, but the lower level and the whole court would actually be completely missed if you didn't come downstairs. And down here is where the homeless people have carved out little spots for themselves. The troll under the bridge has taken advantage of them. He's given them a place to be, but it's kind of under his thumb. So these are absolute bare minimum places out of the elements, just barely. And they work for him. Grateful to have something happening and a place out of the elements, but it's really kind of a bad situation.
Yeah. One seems taken straight out of real life.
Yeah, it kind of is, actually. Kind of, sort of. And then this is the little court. He's got his chair, his laptop, or his console. A couple of chairs for people waiting to have to interview with him. He's got his dog on guard. And he's got his boat for a quick getaway. It was actually really fun to build underneath the bridge. There's really limited space down here, but it was really fun, I must confess. And to go outside the boundary and make sure that things are actually holding up. A couple coffins down here with another dead body waiting for a coffin.
Yeah.
And in addition to the court, there's also stuff to see if you go into the water. Not a lot, but some.
Yeah, but it all adds context.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was wanting, you know, is just kind of, I think I have bones down here suggesting a disposal site. And then other rubble and stuff that was thrown down, just thrown into the canals, kind of thing. I'm gonna guess that most people just completely miss the court, the water.
Cowrie says she failed on this one exploration.
And if you go up to the construction zone, there's not much space there either, but there's actually a little ladder. It'll take you up. And there's more exploring. With a little spot. Somebody dibsed with a wine bottle, I think. Yep, wine bottle and a pillow. Somebody's got a little perch up here. So, in all, there's 4 levels that can be explored. I'm guessing that most people never see much beyond the main level. So I tried to make it so that it was interesting, at least on the main level, and then for the explorers, if they did go exploring, that they would be rewarded with finding something.
Yep, I saw it. I saw the pillow in the bottle when I was on my way falling off the roof. And this is why I don't write them out in dimensions.
This one was fun to do. I was really frustrated with. I wanted to do figure morphs, but you know, we're limited in item count. We're limited in style, and what I really liked the best was the scarecrow, because I like the shaded hat pulled down over features. Yep. So it's a matter of seeing how many I could actually use to make somewhat realistic figures, but maybe at some point we'll get something better to use.
Yeah, posable people would be nice, but you know, I'm one of the few, I guess, that I actually prefer to see what people morph. I like seeing
I agree, actually.
I like seeing that creativity. I like seeing, you know, the uniqueness, because when somebody makes a figure, even if they try to copy it off of somebody else, it's still going to be somewhat distinct, unless they're, you know, just doing a straight add-on copy.
Well, and then look at the unique styles that have showed up. You know, some of those styles showed up in the very beginning, before free-to-play, when we were still working off of really basic building block. Yeah. And those styles have stood the test of time, and I really enjoy those, so...
Yeah, like, I mean, you can...
I just didn't have the item count to...
You can
oh, absolutely.
From a mile away.
Yep. And she has refined that style. It's amazing. It's terrific.
Babies are people too, kid. Kid says I can only make babies. I am bad at people. Hold on a second. Oh, wow.
I remember when Sailor visited this and she's like, wow, lots of drunks. It's like, yeah, it's a bad neighborhood. Oh,
I'm sorry, Kit. Go ahead and squeeze a little bit. Every Saturday is an adventure. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, Kit, drunks make babies. Oh boy. Oh boy. Alright.
I did have a lot of fun going outside the boundaries in this dimension. Plaza Orantine goes on a long way.
Oh yeah. Whew. Okay, back on track. Well, this dimension turned out a lot different than I thought it would.
Really?
I mean, the tour of it did.
Oh, yeah.
We got a little bit of time left, and I know I told you that I wanted to try to hit up these Everwinter and Dreamscapes, but we're going to go to Everwinter first.
Okay. This dimension is one of the first ones I had. As soon as it came out, I loved this dimension, but I had no idea what to do with it, and I did not have very many snowy items. So this was a snowy storage dimension for about a year. And I just held snowy stuff in here. That's all I did with it. And then last fall, I finally figured I had probably enough items to actually make something. And what I really wanted to try doing was build something with multiple elevations. I wanted to try my hand at building a little village, a little town. And I was not... There were certain things that I knew I wanted, like I wanted a tunnel, a functioning tunnel, somehow, but I didn't know if it would work. There was just a whole lot of, I don't know if this is going to work. And then the day that I built the townhouses above the tunnel, then I knew it was going to work.
Yep. Now you told me that this one is kind of inspired by those little towns that are up in the American Rockies.
Yeah, I'm in Colorado, so there's a couple of there's small towns in the mountains and the foothills all over the place. Just head west, maybe 20-30 minutes, and you'll find these little towns with anywhere from 100 to 1,000 people, and they really just kind of dot the landscape. And if you stand up here, I think this rock is the one I liked, but it kind of, look around and you see the rooftops, you see things close and far away, and that's really reminiscent of Colorado towns in the wintertime. They tend to use the elevation a lot, so they're built somewhat into the hill. And especially the really small towns, there's no vehicle traffic, really. It's all by foot or snowmobile. So that's kind of the flavor that I was going for with this.
I miss snow.
Yeah.
And I like this one because some of these places are open, so you got more of your little breadcrumbs.
Yeah, so it's kind of like if you're going to go bother to explore, you'll find something. I didn't have enough item count. Oh, thanks. And of the pre-made houses, these are pretty much just, ante-rooms. Way to get in out of the cold so they're warm. Maybe something hot to drink right there. But there's nothing real fancy because it's just the entryway to the house. The pre-mades worked really well for producing that sense of population.
Yeah, taking up land.
Because I just didn't have the item count to do more than one cabin.
Yeah, putting up real estate.
Yeah.
And I love this cabin.
I do too. I like one-room cabins. I've stayed in them a lot when I've traveled over the years, and they're really fun. And they're homey and they're warm. There's a lot of item count in this cabin. There's probably more in the cabin than anywhere else.
And each piece is pretty well spent.
I think I originally had some idea that whoever lived in the cabin was associated with this tower. I kind of, in my mind, I call it the Academy. I don't know why I call it that, but I do. So maybe staff or something associated with the tower.
Oh, the most important building. Yep, I'm at the outhouse.
That is a pretty cold walk, I tell ya.
Oh yeah.
When you gotta go.
And you went outside the boundary a little bit on this one too, didn't you?
Just a little bit though, and only with a few items. Mostly I placed a couple of big rocks and one of those big snowy broadroot things, and I think 3 houses, just so that all you can see are the rooftops. They're great for, it was great for creating an illusion. I have a few more item count left, so I could, if I get a wild hair. But the idea is for this to be a pretty well fleshed out little town. So it's got a 3-room B&B or inn. It's got a tavern, of course. Every town has to have a tavern. It's got 3 shops. It's got the blacksmith shop above the tavern. So if you actually lived in this little town, there would be places to live, there would be places to get stuff that you need.
Riding bears.
Yeah, well, we don't have horses.
I figure our next NPC is going to be a jackass.
That would be awesome.
It would be.
And it's funny, of all the things in this dimension, the part I was particularly pleased about was the tunnel, the townhouses over the tunnel. I don't know why, but...
Yeah, I was just running along there, and I like those, because even though they're closed off, there's still, like, little details out front, like welcome mats and, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of actually feels like somebody might live there. And I spent a lot of time on stuff that you can't actually see, which was, lining up the things in between each townhouse.
Yeah.
And I'd never had really imagined being able to use the snowy walls and stuff as actual building blocks. So that was kind of weird, but then, boy, it worked. And then I was trying to figure out what I could use to bridge, between the second and the third townhouse, and then they came out with these icy bridges, whatever they are.
Yep.
I used a bunch of those to make icicles. And this dimension is actually themed to be a little Colorado village waiting for Great Father Frost, who is, if you go to the end of the townhouses or you look up from underneath the tunnel, you'll see Great Father Frost almost is here.
Yeah, you know,
There's a little spotlight turned on them.
I remember when you first built it, you were like, well, did you see the sleigh in the air? And I was like, no. Where was that at?
Look up.
And there he is. So not just exploring what's on the ground, you gotta explore what's in the air too.
Yeah, that's the thing that I found most, is that the people who are not explorers don't look up very much. So for those that do, I try to put something there. But it was fun. I let my imagination really kind of go to town building this, and what would a little inside of an inn look like? What would there be for just the most basic stuff, but warm and comforting and kind of cozy. And I don't think I've ever spent so much time on any other dimension really trying to work on having some charm. I'm envious of all these other people who are so good at creating charm, and I really wanted warmth and cozy and inviting.
Well, I think you got all of that here.
Cool. This was a really fun build. I think there's 3 houses back here that you can actually go in one of them. Two houses.
More of these little stoves. And some boots.
Yep. This one looks more like there's kids in this house. To me.
I don't know, there's not a bunch of crap strung all over the floor. I mean toys.
We're over time, boss.
Yeah, so I don't know, it's up to you if you want to try to get dreamscapes in.
Well, we can, but I don't know if everybody else is just bored out of their minds.
We'll go ahead and get this last one. Just because it's really good.
Okay.
You like my logic there?
Sure.
Just because it's good.
This one has a kind of a very specific theme. And the inspiration was when, I don't know if anybody remembers Izzy, but Izzy and I were playing around with Necropolis arches when they first came out, and we were fiddling, and we were just playing and fiddling and stuff like that, and I got this idea to make a fantasy dimension using Necropolis arches as pathways. So when you zone into dreamscapes, things look pretty much normal. You know, up is up, down is down, there's couch, floor, rug, flowers, you know, normal stuff. And you come outside, and things are a little bit less normal, but there's space, and there's still down is down and up, is you know. But we've got infinity pools, which I love. And as you wind your way around the back of the big tree, things start to be not so normal.
I think my favorite spot in this whole place is this tunnel right here.
Yep.
I mean, the whole dimension is good, but that has to be my favorite spot, just for the way that the god rays look coming through the tunnel.
Yep. And you know, it's like you want it to be normal, except there's these things sticking out, and they've got little candles on them, and it's so things just like if you dream, you know, you have normal and reasonable, and then there's the occasional, I don't know what that was. So that's kind of where we start. And running up the spiral, running up the god rays is pretty much the way in. And at this point, you know, all bets are off.
Great use of that natural pathway that's part of Edge of Infinity, which
yeah.
You know, if you've done Frozen Tempest, then this is the bridge, where the bridge goes when you head to the back platform to fight Crucia.
So from here, things are a little bit like you might get lost in, well, who's dreaming this dream? Is somebody feeding dreams to a dreamer, or is the dreamer creating these dreams? And it's an open question. There's no answer here. It's just suggestion of things kind of don't know who's pulling what strings. But each of these pathways then lead to dreamscapes. There are 3 benign dreamscapes and 3 nightmares. And I use the Ashoran statues where I could, where they kind of made sense. And there's a dreamscape for each element. So this side has fire and death and water.
I would agree with that, Cowrie. These are some of the most in-depth stories that we've heard on the Roadshow, and I think that's great.
Well, cool, thank you. It sounds kind of goofy, I suppose, but it's not a big backstory. It's just the idea. What was the idea? Why the idea? Where did it come from? And they spring to my mind kind of full blown that way.
Well, you know, the stories, they add a lot of context, because if you didn't know any of the story and you just, say, came in here wandering around, you'd be like, oh, well, these are cool. Oh, shit. I mean, shoot.
Did you fall?
Yes, I fell. That's why I can't talk and walk at the same time. But at any rate, you know, you'd be like, oh, these are cool, these little planar window thingies, but, you know, I don't know what any of it means.
Right.
So the story definitely helps.
Okay, cool. The dreamscapes themselves were kind of fun to put together, and I had a hard time trying to figure out initially what I was going to use for a place. You know, what can I use that where I can, you know, create it as the foundation of a dream. I don't know. And item count was probably going to get relevant, although ultimately I ended up only not even using all of Tier 3. So I ended up using the mausoleums, and they worked great for being a little space where you could kind of build out or decorate out a theme. Doesn't have to have a lot of stuff, but enough to get a point across maybe, or a flavor.
That whole less is more thing.
Yeah. And then the other side has life, air, and earth.
Now, Thousand says, wouldn't it be cool to have player-written books we could place in our demos? And I would have to say yes, it would be, especially when you find someone like Jaedor who doesn't advertise.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been really handy to have something, a little blurby something that said, that's what this is, just FYI. You know, I've uploaded albums for each of my dimensions up on Imgur, and at least there I can put a little blurb in, like, what is this?
But you don't advertise
You know.
Imgur.
I know, I don't. I think I got really burned, or turned off anyway, at the very beginning when we were all advertising for the Joy of Dimensions contest, and some of the feedback was just horrible.
Yeah.
So I just stopped. Occasionally I'll post something on the forums, but... And I actually need to do a second one, a follow-up to the Hero's Quest.
Yes, you do.
Yes, boss.
Now we need to get Diva to
I
just be like
definitely do not recommend... Huh, what?
that. Now we need to get Diva to just be like that.
I tell you, to go into these little mausoleums and build a something was really fun. I can't really convey the quality of that fun, but it was really kind of like a bag full of bags and bags of stuff, of possibilities, and what's my theme? Like in this one, my theme is life. I'm going to use that statue. What else do I want to do? And just kind of go to town. That was really fun. It's such a simple little thing.
Well, that statue is probably one of my favorites of all the statues.
Well, like in the Earth one that we're headed to right now, I mean, I actually climbed inside, climb on the rocks, you know, because it's Earth. And the idea is that for most of these, I want an explorer to be able to jump in here and get in here and, you know, see the rocks. If they want to, you know. So we got a bug in here. And this one's a nightmare, although it's pretty low-key nightmare.
Yeah, I like the Pathways 2 searcher. I just, I know the first time I was walking these, it was a little bit hairy. Did you make a cloud layer?
Huh.
Or is that, or am I glitching?
You're not glitching, that's just Talara. Talara's got a cloud layer below us.
Well, holy crap, I have never noticed that before. That's really cool.
I did buy the recipe for cloud layer, but when I get 100 wind motes, I'll let you know.
I've got 3 fire motes. 3 whopping fire motes.
I have 3 life. Whee!
I know we did our crifts as a guild on Thursday, and oh my god, there were so many people at them. I know we counted at one rift we had 89 people.
I'm surprised anybody got loot.
A couple of them got...
They're saying if you get more than 20, it's dicey.
There were a lot of people that were in our group that were the ones opening the rifts. That, I mean, they wound up just getting plain right.
Okay.
I don't think it's more than 20. I think it's maybe more than 60, because when we were up in like the 40, 50-ish range, we were doing okay. But once we started getting like the big groups, when people started dropping guild rally banners, it was like, yeah, I wouldn't be an asshole, but it might be time to like try to ditch these guys.
I remember years ago, I think it was on Radish's blog, a question was posed, maybe it was on the forums, I don't remember, but about patterns. Had any of the folks who were building noticed patterns in what they were building? And one of the patterns that I noticed, and I remember posting back then, was that I don't build personal dimensions. I have one personal dimension. The rest are all kind of impersonal spaces.
Yep.
It's kind of odd, but I suppose at the same time they're all personal because they came out of my crazy head. But
yeah, I mean, whatever the source of the inspiration is, I think that's a personal thing, regardless of what it turns out to be. But this is another beautiful dimension, and we saw a whole bunch of beautiful dimensions today. So thank you, Jaedor, for taking the time to come on with us, especially with a little bit of short notice.
No problem. Thanks for the ask.
And we're only
Great to see
15 minutes over. So, but next week we'll be on Lathis, which is a place where we haven't actually gone too often for these road shows, but we'll be on Lathis with Lady. And I'm pretty sure I butchered that, but, you know, she can correct me next week. So thank you for everyone that tuned in today. Thank you, Jaedor. I love the stories. Thank you for sharing those stories with us. And thank you for everyone that watched, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.